Is exercise something you can't live without, or is it a dirty word to you? What about movement? Or does that feel like I'm tricking you? Semantics aside, today's episode is going to help you evaluate your current relationship with exercise and movement so you can rediscover the joy in it that we often lose through unrealistic fitness goals. It's time to give ourselves more through movement. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Today, I welcome Aleisha Fetters to the Positively Living podcast. Aleisha is an internationally syndicated journalist and certified strength and conditioning specialist who believes that physical health is inseparable from mental and emotional health. Her work has been featured in Time, Men's Health, Women's Health, Runner's World, Self, Vice, U.S. News and World Report, and the Oprah magazine. She is regularly interviewed as a fitness expert for Livestrong, Shape, Food Network, and Life Hacker. Her works include Give Yourself More and Fitness Hacks for Over 50. You can usually find her in her workout clothes and cat hair. She's so much fun. I can't wait for you to meet her. Aleisha and I met through her co-author of Give Yourself More, Georgie Fear, my guest on episode 28. With Georgie, we covered the 6 areas of their book that help you reach your weight loss goals by seeking more. It sounds counterintuitive, right? It's a wonderful reframe on how we are constantly seeking to be less when it comes to getting healthy and losing weight. I mean, losing is right there in the phrase. This focus on less plays negatively on our well-being. So, how do we find a way toward our goals without falling into that trap? By wanting the best for ourselves and acting with our best interests in mind. That's where the more comes in, and today, Aleisha is helping us focus on one in particular, movement. In their book, Aleisha and Georgie talk about embracing movement as true self-care, which hinges on seeking it for your own benefit. This means doing it for the right reasons. What are those reasons? We cover a long list in this conversation, with the majority connecting to mental and emotional health. Physical strength and mental strength go hand in hand, and while you can absolutely include looking better in your fitness goals, it's important to consider the functional too. Movement can lift our spirits, help our balance and coordination, and make us feel proud, confident, and focused. It reduces our stress levels by taking cortisol, the stress hormone, down and bumping up the endorphins, the happy hormones. It increases our self-awareness. We sleep better, perform better, just plain show up better. While all of these are great reasons to do it, understand as a habits coach that benefits aren't enough to take action. So Aleisha and I also discuss how much exercise, what she calls intentional movement, you need each day. And it's not as much as you might think. Add to that the simple variations and options to accomplish it, and you might be surprised how simple it can be to integrate movement into your day. We also talk about what you can do at home. This is helpful when we are limited by availability, which is what happened during the COVID pandemic, or by funds or preferences. Aleisha asserts that you can achieve the fitness you want without ever going to a gym. If you are ready to move more but unsure where to start, I recommend connecting with Aleisha at kaleishafetters.com. That's KALEISHAFETTERS.com, or finding her on the app Trainer Size, which was one of the resources she recommends for finding trainers. At this point, I am dying to make a joke about putting the fun back in functional, but I need you to stay with me. You are going to love Aleisha and her encouraging energy. She does talk a lot about how exercise is supposed to be fun, but she tells you how to do that. And she has me fired up to move more, and I bet she'll do the same for you. Welcome, Aleisha Fetters, to the Positively Living podcast. I'm so delighted you could join me today. I'm a big fan of your book, Give Yourself More, and was honored to have your co-author, Georgie Fear, on the podcast to get an overview from it on her specialty, which is nutrition. And now we get your perspective, which is movement. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and talk all things movement. I loved the podcast episodes with Georgie. It was great.
Thank you. So would you please start by telling us a bit about who you are, who you help, and what makes you light up?
Yes. So I am a strength and conditioning specialist. I'm a fitness writer. I spend the bulk of my time writing and really took on training more people in person about 5 years ago, just because I really love having that face to face and being able to see the effect that movement is making for people. I love writing and sending things off, but it's great to be able to see, firsthand how that's resonating with someone and helping empower them and shape their lives. What gets me going is really when I see just a kind of click for women in terms of, their movement and them being able to find that it really is about more and not less. They're able to enjoy it maybe for the first time, feel their own strengths and celebrate them, and just kind of change their relationship. I think, the strength cultivated in the gym just resonates to every aspect of life, self-image, and it's wonderful to be able to see that manifested.
I love that. So I think that's a great place to kind of back up a little bit and say, what is it that you see that is the struggle and the challenge and the pain for women who come to you? When do they come to you, and what's going on with them? I know what's going on with me, and I'm excited to talk to you about this, but what is it that you're seeing, Aleisha?
Right. I mean, people come to me in kind of all sorts of places along their journey. But the commonalities, 110% of the people I work with is that they feel too busy to exercise. They don't have time. And honestly, if they had time, they probably really wouldn't want to exercise anyway because they have a horrible relationship with exercise. They've always learned that, exercise is sort of punishment or a way to atone for being bad by eating that cookie. Like, God forbid you enjoy things in life, you have to, repent for them with sweating it out. The no pain, no gain mentalities, even looking at elementary gym classes, some of our formative experiences, our earliest experiences with exercise were, oh, go run laps for punishment. Think that it's just, why would anybody really want to exercise? There's no real intrinsic motivation. And, that intrinsic motivation or just doing something because you enjoy it, it's the foundation of any sort of habit formation. And then there are often a lot of people who, really understand the benefits of exercise and they want to make it a consistent habit. Maybe they're still struggling some with these other things, but then they don't know what to do. Women, we haven't really been taught this. Think about, gym class. Okay, we learned how to play kickball and we learned the rules to basketball. It was like that. And just in kind of day-to-day life and looking at sports teams and everything, a lot of boys growing up into men got some of this knowledge about exercising, and not saying it was perfect by, any means. And there are so many negative narratives for men as well that I think is important. And a lot of the issues I think extend to both groups. I have a lot of male clients who, really struggle with a lot of the same things women do. But, no one taught us this stuff, and we still kind of assume we should know. We should know how to, do this exercise or that exercise, or we think we should know how to do our exercise programming when no one's ever taught us this stuff. People just don't know where to start. And they think they're supposed to know. And it gets so overwhelming. It can be just a paralysis, like a decision paralysis.
Absolutely, because you want to do it the right way. And I'm sure that's compounded as time goes on. But I'm thinking back to when I was in school and what you're describing about, okay, so we went out and we played a little bit. And yes, when you get into sports, I mean, if you were lucky enough, I was into sports, but there's definitely this, I think, sort of cultural and I would say like gender element to it. You know, there's some effects in there in terms of like what we've learned, what we expected to do. If you were really into lots of sports, I mean, we got the term tomboy, right? So it's
Right?
like, but I'm also thinking too about how much fun we used to have when we were really little. And I'm making this correlation in my mind of like the same thing with intuitive eating, right? And I can tell the way that you talk why you and Georgie bonded. And and I'm thinking about how it used to be very natural for us in the way that we would eat when we were hungry and just like listen to our bodies, and the same thing that we would play, right? And I know that's a big part of the book, which I love, bringing the
Yeah.
fun back, bringing the play
Yeah.
back.
Well, I mean, you just, hit the nail on the head that our bodies are made to move.
Hmm.
They feel better when they move. We have endorphins when we move. Like, we have a whole muscular skeletal system dedicated to movement. That's what the human body is made to do. And I encourage people in the book to, really think back to, remember when you were, running around playing tag as a little kid, how that felt when you ran so fast, it felt like your legs were going to fall off, basically, like, and, just different experiences that you enjoyed. It wasn't quote unquote exercise. You weren't doing it to shrink this or sculpt that or fix X, Y, or Z problem. You were just having fun. It's just such a wonderful thing that I want people to regain. It's such a great sense. Feeling it has so many wonderful effects for both mind and body.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into what are the effects. Our bodies are made for moving. And I'm thinking back to, like you said, when we would play and we would run around, and you always talk about kids being like, well, they're going to sleep well tonight. So what so thinking beyond, again, beyond, there was a phrase that you used in the book, like balancing aesthetic and functional purposes, right, of exercise. And yes, we
Right.
want to look good, but we focus so much on that. How about feeling good? So what are the benefits?
Right. I think it's important to remember that, like, aesthetic goals or like how we look and how we feel or move or perform, they're different goals, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. It's okay to still care what you look like. I mean, it's natural, but at the same time, kind of planting our priorities about, these fundamental things. Movement is a way to care for yourself, first and foremost, mentally and emotionally, like I said, whether it's in terms of regulating hormones, lowering stress hormone, cortisol, chronic levels, sleeping better, like you just said. I just finished writing an article all about your guide to exercising for better sleep. I mean, it's one of the best things you can possibly do for better sleep. I mean, like you said, tiring them out, but on so many other levels, it regulates so much else that in regard to our circadian rhythms.
Hmm.
And in terms of looking good or like, quote unquote, whatever that is, thinking about kind of body image, there are so many studies that show that irrespective of aesthetic results, even when women don't lose weight, they don't lose, there's no difference in their body really by, at least visually in the body. When women get stronger, they feel better about their bodies. When, you're like, I just did this. I just did this amazing thing that I didn't think I did. And what was I saying on your site? It was, you had a quote about, productivity is doing something that was once, impossible or you couldn't do before.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's totally what it is. And it just, I have, some women who I always love to just kind of remind them of what they're doing. There's some things like doing your first pull up that just feels very monumental. And women do it. They're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm awesome. And I'm like, yes, you are. But at the same time, it's like, like, let's say deadlift. I'm like, like, I'm reminding you, you are lifting this much weight right now. Like, that is, X percent of your body weight. That's just your full body weight. You're lifting an entire person. Like, this is amazing. I think it's so great to celebrate those things and our strengths and reminding ourselves that we are strong. I think there's so much, I mean, especially right now, there's just so much going on in life, but it's kind of that lesson, you can get through it, you can overcome.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder about, the correlation that there is between our physical strength and our mental strength and how they play off of each other.
Right. I think they're inseparable, really. I mean, sure, maybe you can have one without the other, but they're definitely strongest when they're together. And I think all aspects of our life really thrive when we have both of those,
Yeah.
pillars.
Yeah. Well, when you strengthen your body, I can see there's certainly, like you said, what you were describing, there'd be a sense of pride in being like, I
Right.
did that. Look at me go. I can remember the first time I did a push up and I'm like, hello.
You're like, I mean, but push-ups are one thing. This is a tangent, but I always get on people think push-ups are a beginner exercise. They are not. They are not. They are a very advanced body weight move that very few people like do correctly,
Hmm.
with great form, unless they're consciously, kind of trained that. And yeah, so when people are like, oh, I can't even do a push-up, I'm like, okay, fine, we'll work with that.
Oh,
But
that's
no, I'm
awesome.
sorry, I digress.
No, that's great. But that's also important. A reminder. I think we have these expectations of what we're supposed to be able to do that we're not allowing ourselves to celebrate what works. But going back to this correlation, right, between the physical and the mental, the other thing that this makes me think of in terms of, the strength in on both sides and kind of one feeding into the other is this idea. I'll have to find a link to an article to include it in the show notes, but this idea of, I think they call them like power poses,
Oh yeah,
like before
yeah,
you're going into a meeting or before you want to achieve something or you're going to do a presentation, right? Oh, I wish you could see Aleisha right now because she's got the hands on the hips. So, both of us are hysterical with the video here. We're like moving our bodies. It's all about movement today. So it just makes sense. But yeah, these power poses of, almost like you're showing up with a cape because listen, women, most of us are, right? So we've got the capes on and we're doing amazing things. So you might as well stand like you have the cape on. But there is a psychological connection when you change your body. And I'm also thinking about strengthening your body and how it can change your posture, which would change your psychology too, right?
totally, totally. I mean, you think about this idea of power poses. I know it can sound kind of cheesy, hokey, but there's so much research going that is actually showing that this makes a big difference. And
Mhm.
I mean, think about how you feel when you're crouched over, you're hunched, your shoulders are drawn, your head is down, you're not looking somebody in the eye versus you're standing up, your shoulders are up, your chest is out, you're proud, you're feeling it. And when it comes to workouts, so much of it is people see really big impacts, I feel like, on their posture. That's one thing I'm hearing a lot about shoulder pain, neck tension, everything's kind of drawing back and opening up. You get a better view of life and you feel better in just so many ways that I think you just show up differently, to other people and for yourself.
I love that quote. There's our tweet for the day, Aleisha. You get a better view of life. You are so right. And when you think about it, this is sort of that chicken and egg thing that we're talking about here is that you do one thing and it affects the other, or one thing is a sign of the other. When we talk about people who are feeling hurt or they're feeling shame or they're unsure or they're super shy or they don't want to engage, they have the body language that you just described. But at the same time, that's also so difficult for the body. And then when you start in with movement and you strengthen and you start to lift up, I mean, yeah, it just all plays off of each other. And so I guess I'm thinking in this way that you're starting with the physical and then it's affecting the mental. And again, there's a beautiful correlation to what I do with clutter, so we're talking about decluttering a physical space and how it changes our mental outlook, right?
Oh, I'm so big into that. As you can see behind me, it's like very
It's very
minimalist.
it's very zen, everyone. There's like two beautiful shelves. Yeah. But do you think better that way, right?
Oh, 100%. I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel less stressed. I feel my mind isn't so cluttered. I function so much better.
You just hit the magic word there. So let's talk about stress and stress management, one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yes. Oh, yes. We're all feeling that.
And that's huge, right? Movement is a huge stress reliever, right?
Right. I mean, whether you're talking in the short term as like, you just do a short workout, you're going to feel less stressed afterwards. But looking over the long term, chronically, if you're an habitual exerciser, your overall chronic levels of stress are going to get lower throughout time. You're going to get the short term bump, from every single workout, but the more you do it and the more you stick with it, the greater the benefits you're going to get. Whether you're looking at, you get that endorphin boost, regulating the cortisol levels, everything like that. Getting a little surge of serotonin and dopamine in there. Don't hurt. All things that happen through exercise. And then there's a lot of research too showing that just exercising, and depending on what type, has different specific effects, but it teaches you so many mental skills. It teaches you focus, zeroing in on how I'm contracting this particular muscle and where am I feeling it in my body positioning, and just being so much more aware of that. And also, I feel getting a little more familiar with how, things feel in your body. So it's like you can notice, oh, I'm holding a little tension here, or maybe, I've got some stress, to work on it. It's just, again, you totally said it. It's also related, and it's very much a chicken and egg thing, because exercise affects stress affects exercise. They kind of tangled up together.
They truly are. But I have to ask, okay, so is there a point in which it switches or it flips, that you can exercise too much or you can stress the body too much, or there could be a certain kind of exercise that might not be right for you and might reverse things? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So it's a tricky relationship, because exercise, movement, whatever you want to call it, can have a positive impact on stress, for some of the reasons I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's important to remember that exercise in and of itself is a stressor to the body. That's how you make change, is you stress the system adapts to be able to handle that stress without it being, so cumbersome and difficult. And then you do it again. And you get that much more adapted, and adapt again and again and again. But how you do that is by resting. You need rest, you need recovery. So I think it's important when people think of like, oh, I'm going to give myself more movement, I need to exercise. That doesn't mean run yourself into the ground. That means listen to your body. Do what feels good. As a general law, I tell people, well, try to incorporate 30 minutes of intentional movement into your day. It doesn't have to be a ridiculously hard, high intensity workout. Sure, there are a place for those, but how are your energy levels feeling that day?
Mm-hmm.
How are your muscles? Are you sore from a previous workout? If you're sore, I always tell people, I think it was a really helpful guideline for some people, is that if you're so sore one day that you have trouble moving well, let's say we've all had those days where we worked out too hard and then the next day we couldn't sit down on the toilet without pain.
Yep.
You're not in any sort of condition to try to do, lower body workouts that day. Like, no, don't do it. Listen to your body. I think, like you mentioned with intuitive eating before, I think being intuitive about it and just listening to your body just does so much. Like, people are like, oh, do I need to do more? I'm like, well, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh.
Well, I think it came from this whole swing into this focus of, I need to do the exercise to burn the calories, to get the body to a certain place that I want to be, and all these things. And I have to, there's a lot of have tos and shoulds and things like that thrown in. Like, right, Aleisha's rolling her eyes just like I am. I pulled a muscle rolling my eye, but this is the thing that I'm, advocating. I'm like, wait, stop. No, it doesn't. It's not a have to. It's not a should. If we're coming back to fun, we also need to come back to there's a point where you're like, this isn't fun anymore. If I
Well,
can't walk properly, right?
exactly. I tell people very simply that I want them leaving and finishing their workouts feeling better than when they started.
Mm,
When I tell people that, often they're just like, oh, oh, okay. And then we start using that as a guide. With that, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much different because they've always had, think about any workout, most of anyone, any workout program that's out there, or, studio class, like the goal is to reduce you to a pile of sweat and a miserable one at that, but no pain, no gain. The idea is to get wrecked, to light your muscles on fire, to, feel the burn. What about feeling good?
right. And I'm thinking what you're talking about with like the rest and recovery and things like that, and that you also want to go. It's not just you come out of a workout and then you rest and you recover, but you also want to make sure that you're going into a workout properly rested. So maybe thinking that day, if you had a lousy night's sleep or something happened that was stressing you out, maybe you adjust what you're doing based on those levels or those issues, right?
Exactly. Workout programs can be so helpful, but I think it's important to have flexibility around them too. If you didn't sleep well one night, the next day might not be the best time to do that really hard workout that you've, had scheduled. Maybe you take it as a lower intensity day. Maybe you do the same workout just with a little less weight. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you foam roll, you stretch, you do yoga. I mean, there's so much you can do. And it's not that one exercise is better than the other. It's just about fitting your day's movement to what your body needs that day.
Right. And when we're talking about like the stress management, I just want to bring up that there's the distinction in stress. We talk about stress in general, but really there's the two types, the eustress and the distress. And the eustress is that good kind that pushes you forward. And that's like that good workout that you're talking about that you do tear the muscle. You are breaking
Yeah,
down to build. That's a thing and that's good. But then distress is when it's, again, taking in the opposite direction. So I think it's a thing that we need to pay attention to as we're moving our bodies, right?
right. If you're just working, and like you said, it's tearing down to build. It's not just tearing down, tearing down, tearing down. Then you're going to end up in a hole. In general, I think, if people are looking for some kind of, hard and fast rules, I think we all tend to, like those easy guidelines, but
Sure.
probably don't do more than like 3 really high intensity workouts per week. Incorporate some low intensity workouts in between. Don't go hard on a single muscle group 2 days in a row. Give it a day of rest. Really just kind of paying attention to how you feel will get you so far. Are you sore? Okay, take today, make it lower intensity, do some recovery work. And one thing I think is really interesting is that, you tell people to rest, and sometimes they just think, okay, I'm going to sit on the couch and binge watch, Netflix all day. And there is certainly a time and a place for that. Do not get me wrong. When that
Oh,
can be
thank
part of
goodness.
your that can be part of your rest. No worries. Like, rest and recovery doesn't have to mean not moving. Moving can still be part of it, but you're looking at the type of movement. So
Mhm.
maybe on a rest day, you just go for a nice leisurely walk around your neighborhood. Maybe you do some of that stretching or yoga or foam rolling we were talking about. Maybe you say like, oh, I'm going to work on some of my mobility today, and you do just mobility drills to just kind of work on your joints and your posture, and you're just feeling good in your. I feel like you can move well, just paying attention to how you are moving.
Mhm.
Just those small little things make such a large difference. Everyone needs to include that sort of movement in their routine, no matter how much high intensity or hard workouts they're including. You always need to include, that gentle exercise that's just about feeling good in your body.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I was going to ask about the phrase like active rest. right? Or
Yes.
active recovery, or, whatever you want to call
They
it. But
call it so many things.
right, exactly. But the idea that you're still paying attention to movement, and the way you're describing it is it's paying attention to the bigger picture of what movement gives us. And so we're tapping into what we started talking about in the first place, is why do we want to do this, and what are we looking for, and what are we seeing, what are the problems, what are the challenges, what are the benefits, and all of that comes into this idea of there's so much more than lift big weights, put them down, break down the muscle. There's also the
Right.
posture, and like what you said about the joints, and just how you're moving, your flexibility, your balance. And those are huge as we get older too.
Right. Well, I think all of us can kind of attest to, the past, I don't know how many months we're even in now, 10
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are less active. I mean, they're in their homes, especially now that it's, winter time. We're sitting all day, even more than we were to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get up and I'm like, oh my goodness, my hips, like they just get so tight. My legs, even, sitting at the computer for long periods of time, they really ache. They ache more than anything. And I just have to stretch every single day. I have to do, some gentle movement, especially my lower body. And I just feel so good. So I think it's like, oh my gosh, like this is going to feel good, and then just enjoying that. And as you were saying, no matter what age you are, I think it's important to look to the years forward, because, we all want those, and we
Mm-hmm.
want them to be the best quality possible. So whether you're, 20s, 30s, middle age, past retirement, there's so much you can do to positively influence how your body feels and the life it lets you lead in the years to come. Physical limitations are such a big issue for quality of life, whether it's just acts of daily living, like taking the stairs. Think about, kind of getting down onto and back up off of the couch or the floor. Think about, the grunting involved, to make that happen. And then even looking at, see some people that are, into old age, and they look vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
and, they're out in the world doing things. Maybe they're hiking, they're traveling, taking on all these new experiences. They're out playing with their grandkids, they're able to pick those grandkids up. Those are the memories that we all deserve to be able to have in our lives. And so, just making conscious choices to try to give ourselves that.
You said that so beautifully.
It's one of the best things you can do to try to afford yourself, these wonderful things.
Yeah. I'm going to reframe it to not looking or acting your age. I love it. I love it. And you segued into the last little thing I want to touch upon, because we are recording this during a time in which we have been experiencing a pandemic and a huge shift. And I know that much of your book talks about our time in the gym, which I truly hope that we can get back to and navigate. But can you give us some tips on what we can be doing at home, or resources, or if you have some resources that, we could look to? I would love that, just to inspire us to keep the movement going when we are at home. And for those who maybe can't get to a gym regardless. So.
There are some silver linings to seeing in all of this situation, but I think one is that more people are thinking about at home movement and exercise than arguably ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great thing, because exercise and fitness progress, mental, physical, it doesn't have to just happen in the gym. It actually, if you want it to, it never has to be in the gym. You can 100% do anything and achieve any goal you have at home. There's such a range of just body weight movements. And a lot of times there tends to be like this idea that, oh, they're easy or they're not as effective. Tell them to do some push-ups and pull-ups and then get back to me on that. No, it can be wonderfully challenging if that's what you want. You can really adjust any sort of body weight move to be appropriate to your needs. And outside of that, having just a few things on hand around the house. And it doesn't even have to be legit dumbbells. the first half of quarantine, I, worked out in my small condo at the time with a duffel bag that I had loaded up with books, and I had taken apart a broom, and I was using the section of the handle, and that was my little part, and I'd loop it through the straps, and I could, do things with that, and then I'd do deadlifts with the bag, and I put the broom handle through a resistance band and use it as a handle to do, tricep extensions or this or that. There's so much you can do. But again, I think that gets into the issue of that. For okay, there's a lot I can do, but where on earth do you start? Right? That's
Mhm.
that overwhelm again. And I think in kind of clearing that out, there are trusted resources you can go to. I always kind of prioritize, and I think Georgie and I did say this in the book. .edu, .org. Those are always going to be your first stop. But after that, there are plenty of credentialed experts who are putting great content out there.
Mhm.
And of course, Georgie and I have our own, content. And
Mhm.
I work as a personal trainer. And I've been, working with people online throughout this whole pandemic and helping them work out at home and giving them plans for what they can do at home based on whatever it is they have. But the information is out there. So it's just, I think, up to people to figure out what's the best fit for them in terms of how they want to get that information. Do they want to, there's so many websites that have great, workouts that you can check out. There are videos. People are exploring integrated fitness, like live streaming classes and everything, like never before. I
Yeah.
mean, oh my gosh, I wish I had bought stock in Peloton for all this.
Right.
There are so many options. So I think it's really just kind of being honest with yourself about what's standing in your way. Is it that you need more guidance? Is it if you've got to work out online, would that feel a workout or a workout program online? Would that feel good to you? Or would you be one of those people who are like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm doing it with the correct form, or you have aches and pains, but something needs to be tailored?
Mhm.
I think you should look at that as all opportunities. There's so many options out there. So it can be overwhelming, but try to look at it as with an abundance mindset.
Mhm.
It's an opportunity and to figure out what's, going to be the best for you. And there are so many options. So that helps you personalize it to get exactly what you need.
Right. So it sounds like you're saying, let's start with, okay, what's going on with you and go to some trusted resources to start. And that's why I invited you on. And that's why I wanted you and Georgie to join us here
Yeah.
because you're a resource I trust that I want to share with others. And then that's another great way if, you have people that you can trust, how they vetted things. You can take a look at what they're
Exactly.
recommending. You can look at the things, like you said, if you're looking at sites with .edu or .org, you can start with trusted resources and then you can filter it perhaps by your age or the situation that you're in, whether you've been injured or not. Again, not a doctor here, not advice, but
Right.
that's the whole point of asking these questions. Maybe checking with your doctor, that would be a great idea. Thinking about going back to, I want to leave us with the fun, right? What do you
Yes.
enjoy? I'm going to give a shout out to Zumba once again. Anytime I get a chance to dance, like it's not just dance like nobody's watching, it's I dance like I don't care who's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, filtering by that. And I guess the next thing is really just trying something, right?
Right.
There you go. Okay.
I always want to drive home for people. A lot of times people get in a very perfectionistic mindset that makes them procrastinate in terms of their workouts. They think they need to have everything perfect to
Mm,
get started. You don't. You
yeah.
you just have to walk. You just have to move in some
Just
way.
start.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Any sort of movement, no matter how haphazard, is better than the most perfectly crafted workout plan in the world later. Do it
Mm,
now. Just get started. It doesn't have to be pretty. No one's watching, and then if someone is, then you don't have to care. So just like you're dancing.
I love it. Yes. So just start. I love it. That's a great place to end on. So are you ready to get into a fun rapid wrap up with me?
Yeah, let's do it. I actually Been gearing up for this whole day.
All right. You are ready. I can tell she's ready. You should see her. She's ready.
I'm focused.
Yeah. The first is, and you're going to love this, the song that always makes me dance is.
So at least since like this last spring or summer, it's been South to the Border by Ed Sheeran with Camila Cabello. That comes on and I've got all the moves.
I love, now I have to see the moves, but this will definitely be on the Positively Living Podcast Spotify dance playlist. So definitely
Ooh, that would
look
be
for
a good
that
one.
there. And that's a great way. Go get the dance playlist and just dance around to
Yeah.
that. That's a great way
Oh
to
my gosh,
incorporate
it's
movement.
such a great workout.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. So how about the quote or mantra I share all the time is,
It's tough, but you're tougher.
oh, that's
I
good.
tell that a lot in the gym to a lot of clients, and I think it's true in the gym, but it's also true in so many aspects of our lives right now. You know, about
Oh, so true. Yes. So take that with you, whatever you've been going through. It's tough, but you're tougher. You got this. How about a resource, book, or app that makes my life easier is, and of course, give yourself more is one of them, but
oh yes, of course. I use an app called Trainerize to work with my trainees, my clients, but I call them trainees. I don't like to call them clients. Clients.
I like that.
And it's and actually that's a wonderful resource too. You know, online training is really helpful, but there's just an app that, you know, even through the app you can find anyone to work with in the world. And I can see on my computer, on my phone at any moment of the day when any of my trainees do their workout, they log a comment, they send me a question about one of their workouts. Maybe they send me a video, like, how's my form look on this? All this stuff I'm constantly connected with them. And it streamlines everything so much in a time that we can't necessarily be physically present with each other, that it allows us to have that connection.
This is an app that people could use to find a coach.
Yeah, exactly. You can find any coach, that's signed up for it and is using it.
Great.
So,
Say the name of
I'm
the
on
app.
it. You can work Trainerize.
Trainerize.
Yeah. So train like training, and then exercise like exercise.
Like exercise. Okay. Don't worry. We'll get the link. I will put it in the show
Yeah,
notes for sure. That's good.
it's really great. And I know a lot of friends who are trainers who use it as well. And there are other apps and online programs where you can connect with trainers, but things like that they make it so much easier.
Absolutely a great place to start searching. A great place to
Make my
start.
life much easier too.
Yeah, love that. Oh, I like that. Okay, and last but not least, what or whom are you grateful for today, Aleisha?
Right now, I'm really grateful. I mean, I've got several things. All my family and friends, my close family and friends, unfortunately, are healthy and have been healthy, and that's just feels like such a gift right now. And I think it's important not to take that for granted. I feel, I mentioned earlier, quarantine workouts in my little condo, and I moved to a house in the burbs. It was like crazy from downtown Chicago to nature. I said, I'm just going to be a little beaver out here. But it's wonderful that it's been a way to kind of give myself more in some areas of my life. I have access to being outside in nature. I live by a forest preserve. I converted the whole basement into a gym and bought tons of goodies for myself. And it feels so good for my mental and emotional health that I feel very thankful to have that right now.
I love that. That's wonderful. Well, I am most certainly grateful for you and that you came to share your wisdom today. You gave us a lot more today. And I'm completely jazzed about finding new ways to move. I'm grateful that my body does move as well as it does. And I'm looking forward to helping it move even better now with your inspiration today.
Yes, such a great point. That is such a wonderful thing to recognize and appreciate in yourself. Now, a lot of times we don't really show gratitude for the abilities and how our bodies are until, we develop, some sort of limitation. So,
Right.
be grateful now and celebrate it now by moving.
I love it. It's like really gratitude in action. I talk about gratitude and the ways that we can actively show gratitude. And this is one way to keep moving our bodies and to keep giving ourselves that care shows gratitude for all we're able to do. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
where can we
you.
find you online other than the Trainer Size app? I know we can find you there, but where else can we find you
Right.
online to get all your resources?
Let's get into some weird spellings, but my website is kaleishafetters.com. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm at KA Fetters across platforms, trying to make it easy, keep them all consistent. And, I always really enjoy connecting with people. So I would encourage anybody who's at all interested in talking, asking a question, they have a question about exercise or Bigfoot or dinosaurs or anything, just to let me know. I'm happy to chat about anything.
Wonderful. And you can also, if you're following me, you can find her through me because I'm stalking. I mean, I'm following her. So, and getting all her wonderful resources too. So you can definitely find her that way. And I will be sure to put these links in the show notes as well. Thank you, Aleisha. Thank you for shining your light in this world and for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Movement is the song of the body. Vanda Scaravelli. Thank you for joining me on the Positively Living podcast. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. Would you like to further explore the topics you've heard and implement what inspires you? Could you use some coaching support? What if you could attend a private Q&A with my guests and access bonus content? You can do all that and more in the Positively Living membership community. Check the link in the show notes or head to positivelyproductive.com/membership to enroll. I look forward to having you join me next episode and in the community. Until then, keep it positive and keep making space for what matters most.